Hello, you're listening to Storytelling Saga, the podcast that shares stories. I'm your host, Allie, and in celebration of the 50th episode of the podcast this week, I'm discussing my all-time favorite childhood cartoon, Rugrats, created by Arlene Klasky, Gábor, Csupó, and Germain. And this is one of the original 3 Nicktoons, the other 2 being Doug and the Ren and Stimpy Show. All 3 premiered on August 11th, 1991. And this show is just so close to my heart. I love it so much. And I loved all 3 of those Nicktoons when I was really young, but this one was always my favorite. And rewatching it now, I can't even tell you how many times I was just grinning ear to ear and getting emotional here and there, because it's the power of nostalgia, certainly, and it's just the power of being connected to your own childhood memories. Just these Rugrats, these babies, how they're learning about the world, they're experiencing new things for the first time, they have that unquenchable childhood curiosity, and the writing still holds up. It's just such an excellent show, and it is yet another Nicktoon that is getting rebooted. I'll admit that I was skeptical about that, but this show on its own is just, I love it so much. The original 65 episodes of the show, the showrunner was Germain, and then when he had left, he moved on to do the show Recess for the Disney Channel. And after the show halted production in 1993, and they kept airing reruns on Nickelodeon, the ratings went up, and then sure enough, production resumed in 1996. So then that was the second run of Rugrats. And these original 3 seasons, though, I love every single episode, and it's just forever my all-time favorite cartoon. I absolutely love the characters, and I will say Tommy Pickles is my all-time favorite, and there's just so much I admire about Tommy. Namely, his bravery and that he always looks out for his friends. He's so noble, he's the leader. And what's interesting is the pilot for this series. It's called Tommy Pickles and the Great White Thing. If you haven't checked it out, I recommend it. You can find it online. It's always interesting seeing pilots before they're picked up as a series, seeing the evolution of a character and the animation. And so in this pilot, I'm not sure when I first saw it. I might have seen it probably a few years ago, but I rewatched it now. And in this pilot, they feature Tommy, Phil and Lil, no Chucky, no Angelica yet. There's also Spike and Tommy's parents, Dee Dee and Stu, and then his Grandpa Lou. And the premise is that he's just fascinated by the toilet. He doesn't know what it is, what it does. And the biggest difference is, first off, he has an orange shirt instead of a blue shirt, but he's also voiced by a different voice actress. He's voiced by a woman named Tammy Holbrook. And obviously in the series, he's voiced by E.G. Daly. But Phil and Lil, they still have the same voice actress, voiced by Kath Soucie, and she also voices Betty. And Dee Dee, still voiced by Melanie Chardoff, and Stu, still voiced by Jack Riley. And it's really interesting, just the angles, just these really extreme angles. I find the animation really fascinating in that pilot. And obviously, season 1, the animation, it's much cruder. The designs are just, the way the characters look, it's sloppier. That being said, I find such a charm to it. I really like the early designs. But it's cool to see how they evolved in terms of the art style. And even in that first season, though, Tommy, the way E.G. Daly plays him, he has kind of like a smaller sounding voice. He was still always the leader, but I mean, in that first season, a lot of the premises for the episodes are just the babies wreaking havoc in different settings, like at the movie theater, or when Tommy wreaks havoc in just all these different places, at a restaurant, at a baseball game, psychiatrist's office, in that building, all those places. The post office. So really, that first season, the plots are simpler. The stories are just set in one location and just the babies wreaking havoc, but then it obviously expanded with seasons 2 and 3. I gotta say, season 2, every single episode, I was like, oh my god, I love this one. I remember this episode, I love them all, but I couldn't get to all of them. But season 1, the first episode, he's got a red shirt instead of the blue shirt, and then he's got the blue suspenders, and they just want to eat dog food because they think it'll turn them into dogs. And then right away you see the dynamic that Tommy's the leader. He's got his best friend Chucky, voiced by the late Christine Cavanaugh. And then she had, on a side note, when she retired from the industry in 2001, then in the last 2 seasons of this show, Chucky was voiced by Nancy Cartwright, who is the voice of Bart Simpson. But then, of course, you have the antagonist, the bully, Tommy's cousin Angelica, voiced by Cheryl Chase. But in that first episode, she's kind of with the babies and just wanting to also try dog food so she can bite the mailman. And I never noticed, because when you watch a bunch of episodes in a row, especially in this first season, how often Chucky says, I don't know, Tommy, I don't think that's such a good idea. And then Tommy responds always, oh, come on, Chucky, don't be a baby. And it's funny, too, that Tommy is the youngest of this little group, since Tommy, that's his first birthday. Phil and Lil are maybe about 1.5, and Chucky's 2, and Angelica is 3. And Angelica is so interesting because since she's older and she knows how to manipulate and she always tricks the babies and she always wants to be the center of attention, what's interesting is that she is the connection between the babies and the adults, since the adults can't understand the babies, but Angelica talks to the adults and to the babies. And as Tommy says, a baby's gotta do what a baby's gotta do. He first says that in the episode Barbecue Story, when he has to go to the next yard to get his ball, and then there's that angry dog going after him, and then when he screams and then Spike saves him. Spike, loyal as they come, such a great dog. He loves Tommy, he loves all the babies, he protects them. And then there's the episode Slumber Party, and that episode, I just remember this line had always stuck with me from Angelica when she says, if you have to ask, you'll never know, when Tommy asks her, what's a slumber party? But with that line, it just basically means until you experience it for yourself, you'll never actually know in any scenario. And for these babies, they're just experiencing the world for the first time. And it's all about firsts. First losing a tooth, your first tricycle, learning how to potty train, all these things. And what's funny too is how just when they come up with things in the moment, it's like, what's that mean, Tommy? Well, it must mean that he just figures out things, and just the babies with their misinterpretations of the world, but that's how you learn. And all that matters is you're just learning and playing, and they always want to help the adults, and the adults are always never realizing when the kids just go off. And then when they do realize, oh, where's Tommy? It's like, well, he's long gone. Just breaks out of the playpen so easily with his trusty screwdriver. And then what's amazing, too, is when you go back and watch shows from your childhood, how you pick up on things that just totally went over your head as a kid. With this show, there's humor with the adults. And obviously, too, what's so funny is just even the babies with their mispronunciations, the incorrect way they say things. But in the first episode, for instance, when Dee Dee's freaking out because the party's a disaster, and then she's saying, oh, well, I want to be like those moms on TV. And then Betty says, come on, Dee, TV's TV, we're real. Or in the episode Beauty Contest, when Tommy is confused why his dad and his grandpa are dressing him up like a girl because they want to enter him into a beauty contest for girls. And then Phil and Lil are saying, oh, whatever, that's no big deal. We switch places all the time. So then Phil takes Lil's bow, and then he starts crying. And then Betty's like, oh, what's wrong, my baby girl? And then she says, the girls tend to cry more at this age. And then she's like, all right, now where were we? And then Dee Dee says, well, we were talking about the difference between men and women. Just the clueless parents. And that evidently was a theme in early Nickelodeon. The theme of the kids are the ones that really know what's going on. The parents have no idea. Just the parents don't get it at all. So that's a cool theme and fitting for a network for kids. And speaking of that, actually, what I just learned a few years ago was that cartoons with this 11-minute segment, because cartoons used to be 7 minutes, 3 segments, so then it shifted to 11-minute segments. And the reason for that is from Vanessa Coffey, one of the executives at Nickelodeon at the time. It was all these women who really wanted to have this groundbreaking animation, and that's why these 3 shows kicked it off for Nickelodeon. But she changed the format for kids' television. So that's really cool, and how that is now the norm for cartoons on all of networks. And there's just, I can't get to every episode and every moment that I love. There's just so many. Episodes that I've seen the most, though, for sure, probably, because I had a VHS tape of it. If you remember those orange VHS tapes for Nickelodeon. One of them I had a few Rugrats episodes. It had Real or Robots, when Tommy thinks his dad may be a robot after he watches that movie. And then they're trying to do all these things to see if Stu is a robot. And another episode on that tape was Toy Palace, when they're trapped in the Toy Palace. With Thorg hungry, Thorg want eat. And Chucky saying, wow, cowboys and injuries. And the parents always after the fact realizing that their kids are gone. Just goodness. Distracted parents. And Tommy just always sees everything as an adventure. And then you got that opposite side with Chucky, how he's always just so timid and scared, but they're best friends, and he still always goes on the adventures, even though he doesn't think it's such a good idea. But the other episode on that tape was Beach Blanket Babies, when they want to free the sea monkeys, or as they call them, the sea monies, at the beach. And then at the end of that episode, when they put the cooler and the ocean sweeps it away, and then it's an empty cooler, so then the sea monkeys are free. And then Chucky's kind of sad, and Tommy's saying, what's wrong, Chucky? And he's saying, oh, I don't know. I'm just going to miss them. I didn't even get to say goodbye. And then he just says goodbye. It's like, well, you could say goodbye now. Goodbye, Spiffy. Goodbye, Spot. Goodbye, Oreo. Goodbye, Mike. And then Tommy assuring him, saying, you did the right thing, Chucky. You set them free, and they'll never forget you for it. And just one of the many reasons why I love Tommy Pickles. Just this baby who is so encouraging and just brings out the best in people, and I love their friendship, Tommy and Chucky. It's just so wholesome and pure, that they're bestest friends, so absolutely adorable. Another moment of humor, though, that I love from season 1 in Special Delivery, when Tommy thinks that they're going to get a new baby because Stu wants to order this doll to see what it does to compare it to his toy, since he's always trying to come up with the next toy that's going to put Pickles' toys on the map. But then when Tommy goes to the post office, and it's just a disaster as always when he's just wreaking havoc at the post office. And then when he sees the doll and he goes inside the box, he's like, hi, my name's Tommy. What's yours? Mama. Really? That's my mom's name too. That's great. I love it. There's also the episode Ruthless Tommy, where Tommy is just straight up kidnapped. Oh my gosh, talk about unaware parents. But in that case, it was when Pop was watching him, and when he just always falls asleep, and then those guys take Tommy, and then Tommy just wants his ball, and then just causing all trouble for them, so they finally just go and give him back. Also, another great episode from season 1 is Little Dude, where we find out that Dee Dee teaches home economics at a high school. So then she takes Tommy as a visual aid, and they learn how to change a diaper. And then there's that kid with the glasses, the cool kid. And then a couple of the girls in the class take Tommy, and then, of course, lose him. And then he's just causing all this trouble around the school. And it culminates in a food fight that he unintentionally starts. And then at the end, that guy with the glasses, I dubbed the Little Dude. It's so cute, Tommy with the sunglasses. And then once in a while, though, he just unintentionally helps out a situation when he's just making a mess. Like in the episode Mama Trauma, when he's just going around in that building. And then at one point, these two guys are looking for something in a book, saying, oh, a man's life is at stake. And then Tommy just toddles in, crawls through, and just inadvertently flips the pages to the right, thing that they're looking for. It's like, sir, I found it. I think that's great. Another episode I would see a lot, though, was Touchdown Tommy, when they're just fighting over the chocolate milk, and then they're watching the Ultra Bowl instead of the Super Bowl. And what's funny, too, with Chaz, when she's saying, I don't know, Stu, maybe watching this football game isn't such a good idea. Maybe that's where Chucky gets it from. But then when they're wearing those helmets, the baby bonker, whatever it's called, bumper, bongo, the baby bumper bunko-matic, something like that. When it's a really fancy name for a helmet, a baby helmet. But Angelica's is just a straight up diaper. I mean, but just when he's got the chocolate milk, and then she's like, give me that bottle. I said, give me that bottle. And then, of course, it coincides when they're watching the football game, and then the announcer saying the play-by-play of what's happening, and then it just coincides with the babies in the living room throwing the bottle and all that. I love that. I also love the episode The Trial, when Angelica basically is trying to frame the babies when she's the one who broke the clown lamp. But then they have a trial, and this is the jerky. The jury, not the jury, the jerky. Ironically, she's the one saying it wrong. And then she's trying to say, oh, you guys are playing your little games. You knocked over the lamp. Or Chucky, he hated that lamp, so he wanted to break it. And then, of course, Angelica's the one who did it, because ever the jealous one. But what's good, though, is that obviously Angelica, being a bully to these babies, she always gets her comeuppance. Then there's the episode Fluffy versus Spike, and same thing with Spike getting blamed for everything Fluffy is doing. And Fluffy, it's just so weird how she has pigtails like Angelica. And then the last two episodes of season 1, Graham Canyon and Stu Maker's Elves. Graham Canyon, that episode introduces us to Cynthia, and the person who created Cynthia was none other than Craig Bartlett, the creator of Hey Arnold. And he was a story editor for season 1 of Rugrats, and he directed these 2 episodes. And he said he had wanted someone for Angelica to talk to, and the reason Cynthia looks the way she does with her crazy hair and just kind of worn is because she was just loved so much that this is how she looks now. So it is sweet, though, too, because with every character, when you have a quote-unquote bad character, just an antagonist, a villain, a character to be mean and be a foil for the quote-unquote good characters, the protagonists. Whenever you have a character like that, there has to be what's called a pet the dog moment, which I learned from screenwriting books, but it just means that they have to have something that kind of humanizes them and makes them not all bad. And Angelica really isn't all bad. Parents apparently always thought she was too mean, which she is mean, and apparently that was a direction that Cheryl Chase would get, to be meaner with the babies. You dumb babies! But with Cynthia, anyway, I'm going on a tangent. With Cynthia, that's basically her pet the dog. That's her favorite toy. And she's just a little girl herself, so she loves her little doll, Cynthia. And then Stu Maker's Elves is just so funny, too, when poor Chucky's like, wee, 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 with the mattress. Oh, that's what they'll call me, mattress boy. And even in that, when they go down to the basement to get Tommy's flying toy, and then there's those dolls that Stu's making, the machine, but of course it doesn't work, and then the babies unintentionally fix it by just switching the lever, and Tommy telling Chucky to get his toy, and Chucky saying he's scared, and then Tommy just says, you can do it, Chucky, and because he believes in him, and he can do it, and he does. We all need a Tommy, just someone to boast you up, to be there to help you and let you know everything's going to be okay. That's so sweet. Again, one of the many reasons I love Tommy Pickles. And then season 2, that's when they really expanded on the stories, and they did more, as Paul Germain had said, they did more parodies, like with Sand Ho, just them pretending to be pirates. And then we got more of the fantasy things where you go inside the kids' imaginations and we see them playing in the backyard, but then it just cuts back and forth to them like they're really pirates out on the ocean. Just all those ways of just exploring your imagination. Another one being Showdown at Teeter Totter Gulch, where it's like a western. They go to that playground and they meet the junk food kid, the meanest kid around. And there's that other little girl, Belinda. And then when that junk food kid girl gets gum in her hair, the poor girl, and she's crying, and then the next day she has short hair. And then Tommy, of course, stands up to the junk food kid, because as Chucky says in that episode, that he sure doesn't like any baby to get pushed around. Mirrorland is so fun too. And just that wonder of childhood and how things always line up perfectly in Rugrats, because then when they go in the mirror, and then coincidentally, since Dee Dee had went to this antique shop and she's trying on one of the articles of clothing, it's just a tutu, and then it's like, oh no, it's my mom and she's a robot, 'cause they think everything is in reverse or opposite in Mirrorland. And then Grandpa's wearing a wig and Spike wearing Dee Dee's glasses. And then Phil and Lil are arguing. It's like, I think they made it. I don't think so. And then, of course, always back and forth with their arguing. And with Phil and Lil, too, that's when they expanded more. Because really in the first season, they're just kind of going along on the adventures. And they weren't even into worms yet. Because in that episode, Moose Country, when they first see a worm, they're like, what is that? It looks like chocolate spaghetti. And then Tommy tries it. But then obviously they got grosser, loving worms and mud and all that. And they also kind of pitted against each other, wanting to be different. The season 3 episode, Twins Peak, when they're like, why can't they tell us apart? Which, that reminds me, I had twins growing up in elementary, middle school, in my class, and they would always get mixed up. I can imagine how frustrating that must be. But then in this show, so then Phil decides he wants to be more like Chucky, and Lil wants to be more like Angelica, so they can have their own identities. And then Phil's like, oh, I'm scared. It's like, oh, please, nothing's even happening yet. Chucky trying to be a mentor if you're going to be like me. And then Angelica, too. It's like, why should I do what you say? 'Cause I said so. And then she takes her dad's quackalator to throw in the mud. And at the end, they're like, I want to be more like someone who I always look up to. And then Tommy with a little ego on him saying, oh, I think I know who they're talking about. Thinking it's him. It's like, I want to be more like Phil, and I want to be more like Lil. But just always when they're fighting, I love how when they say each other's full names, is not Philip, is so Lillian. There's that episode too, though, from season 1 when they do that baby commercial. That one's great. Also, I love Ice Cream Mountain. Hole in one, hole in one. And I love Angelica's in Love. And I've mentioned this quote before, but it's worth repeating when Angelica says, I'm playing the most dangerous game of all. Musical chairs? No, dummy, love! With Chucky. Oh, gosh. And then what's great, too, is that they would pair up other characters, like with Chucky and Angelica, for instance, when they get cuffed together. And then again, Angelica being so mean to Chucky, and then when she says, oh, just get out of here, I never want to talk to you. And then she gets stuck to her bed. She's like, Chucky, come back! Regarding Stewie is an interesting episode. When Stu falls off the roof, basically gets a concussion, I guess, and thinks he's a baby, and he's talking to the babies, which is just so bizarre. He's like, hi, I'm Stewie, what's your name? And then, first I think it's great, but then Tommy misses his daddy, so then when he finally falls off the roof again, then he's back to normal. Oh my gosh. And I didn't mention the theme song yet, composed by Mark Mothersbaugh. I absolutely love this theme song. The music, the diaper with the drum roll, and then just the babies all toddling around in the living room. Poor Chucky on the vacuum, and he just barrels into the wastebasket. There's that weird little robot cat thing. But anytime I saw the theme song when I was really young, I would just scream, Rugrats! Run to the TV, be so excited to watch Rugrats. I just love this theme song, the music, I absolutely love it. And then when Tommy squirts the milk bottle, and then you just see Rugrats. There's just, I keep saying this, there's just so many amazing episodes. I just want to sit here and just talk about every episode, my favorite moments from every episode, but then I'll be here all day. An important episode, though, is The Slide. And that one is just a great episode with Chucky when he's scared of going down the slide. And actually, I had a similar experience with my friend. I think we were 8 at the time, when we used to go to those McDonald's playhouses, and it was me, my friend, and my best friend. And my best friend and I would go down those slides. And then we were trying to get our other friend to go, but then she was too scared to go down. And it was one of those moments where I thought to myself, oh, but you're missing out on having fun. And with Chucky, too, when he gets scared because he was on the big slide, and then when they go to Susie for advice, I didn't mention Susie yet, sidebar, when she's introduced in the season 2 episode, Meet the Carmichaels. And her introduction is great when she's just crying, and then she says, I want my, and then she runs into Tommy, and she says, hi, I'm Susie, what's your name? And Susie's just a great foil for Angelica. Susie always the virtuous one, and Angelica always the evil. But so when they go to Susie for advice, see Susie just being the mentor to the babies. And then she says, well, he's got to conquer his fear. And then Tommy says, I get it. Even though he's scared of the slide, he's got to go down anyway. And then when he's finally able to go down the slide again, they're like, wow, Chucky, that was really brave. And he says, even though I was scared, I knew I had to do it. So I just closed my eyes and let go. And that's a valuable lesson for all of us, for kids and for adults, to face your fears. And even though it may be scary, then once you face it, you can conquer anything. Don't let fear stop you, because then you can miss out on a fun experience or just something that can help you grow and learn. So that's an important lesson. I also absolutely always loved the Christmas episode, the Santa experience, when Angelica tricks Phil and Lil to giving up their prized toys to get each other something that they each want. And then Angelica feels bad about it, but then really it's because she's afraid she's going to get coal from Santa. And then Chucky, ever the scaredy cat, because even in the episode with the slide, I'm not a scaredy cat. You gotta tell yourself you're a big brave dog, with Susie, and Angelica saying he's a scaredy cat. So then with Chucky being scared now of Santa, and then Tommy wants to trap Santa and prove to him that it's not scary. And then when Chaz just is up at Santa, and he's saying, oh, Chucky, it's just me. And Angelica trying to right her wrongs so that she won't be on Santa's bad list. And then at the very end when she just gets a little lump of coal. I also love the episode The Box, where it's so true with kids that any big toy, nothing's as exciting as the box. And just using their imagination, where Tommy thinks it's a race car, Chucky thinks it's a rocket ship, Phil thinks it's a house, Lil thinks it's a cave. And then after Angelica rips it up, saying, stop having fun, it's just a stupid box, when they're still having fun with it, when it's all torn up, and then Chucky's playing like it's wings. And then when Chucky has an imaginary friend, Barney, and that helps him not be afraid, because he just tries all these new things with Barney. It kind of gives him the confidence. And then the babies are saying, oh, what does Barney want to do? He thinks we should go on the roof. He's saying, oh, wait, Barney. And then he's scared. He's saying we shouldn't do this. And then he says, well, because Barney isn't real. He tells them that it was all made up. And then he's saying, oh, wow, so that was you who thought of all that stuff? So kind of gave him that confidence, that bravery. Because really, always facing your fears, that's true bravery. And then I didn't mention, of course, Lipschitz, just that baby psychologist that Dee Dee always refers to. Well, Lipschitz says, oh gosh, Lipschitz. And there's an episode where he shows up and he just has no idea what to do with kids, the irony. Basically just a Sigmund Freud type character. Oh, and of course, Reptar, just their idol, especially for Tommy. He loves Reptar. And when they go to see Reptar on ice, kids on the ice. And then, as I said, all these firsts, like Chucky's first haircut. And also that episode where he's self-conscious about his red hair. He doesn't like all the attention or people pointing out his red hair. But then he starts, when they put the gel in his hair, and then he starts to feel like he's not special and he misses his red hair because it made him unique and made him who he is. So that's sweet too, just loving yourself. That's always an important lesson too. Another sweet one, which is just so sad too, when Chucky has that pet bug Melville, and when it dies and he's so upset and he misses Melville. But then another important lesson where then he's happy thinking about Melville, and he says, every time I think of Melville, I'll be happy. Thanks, guys. Just looking fondly back on those memories. So sweet. And of course, an episode that just takes the internet by storm. Angelica breaks a leg when she pretends to have broken her leg. And you know, the classic scene that the internet just loves. Stu, what are you doing? Making chocolate pudding. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. Why on earth are you making chocolate pudding? Because I've lost control of my life. Terrible. And then, of course, the irony when he gives her the chocolate pudding. Here's your pudding, Angelica. Oh, that's okay, Uncle Sue. I'm not hungry anymore. Oh, gosh. And then again, she gets her comeuppance when her mom ends up breaking her leg, and then they have to wait on her hand and foot. There's also that episode when Angelica thinks she's going to get a new baby brother, Angelica's worst nightmare, and that she's going to be pushed out and that the new baby will get all the attention. It would have been interesting if Angelica had a younger sibling, but I guess it would have been a similar dynamic with just the babies and her thinking she's the bestest and the smartest because she's older. That's so true of childhood too, when you're the oldest, so you're the boss, and that's how it goes. Another funny one, mysterious Mr. Friend, when they think it's Mr. Fiend and just that robot clown doll, which is oh gosh, it's frightening doll. And they keep trying to destroy it, and it just keeps coming back. And there's a bunch of them then. And then Lil says, boy, we're really having one of those days, huh? I also love the episode Home Movies, when the babies draw their own pictures, making up their own home movies. And Tommy draws scribbles because, as he says in the episode, I don't have all my motor skills yet. And Angelica, of course, when she draws her pictures, she's the princess and she gets all the toys and everything she wants. And then Chucky, he draws on the chalkboard and he makes Tommy a superhero because that's how he sees him. And it was just so adorable. And it was really cool too because they were actual drawings from little kids. And just so many amazing episodes with the 4 babies. Also mega diaper babies when they're imagining themselves as the mega hyper heroes. A lot of great Susie and Angelica episodes too, though, when they're trying to see who's the bestest kid and just the best at all these things, best at racing, eating pudding, jumping off the swings, playing chutes and ladders. And Susie's just always naturally the best at everything. Angelica just always wanting to prove that she's the best, though. But they do have a good friendship, too. But Susie, it's great that she sticks up for the babies. Susie voiced by Cree Summer. And Tricycle Thief is great, too, when they think Angelica stole Susie's trike, but then it turns out she was actually telling the truth. And then she actually felt bad, and she made her a card to say sorry, because when she had she got caught red-handed with the red paint on her hands, the finger paint. And it was the color of Susie's trike. And there's all those episodes with aliens, too. Like when Angelica tells the babies that Chucky's an alien, always with her little lies getting into the babies' heads. Or when Angelica thinks the sky is falling and that they're the only people on Earth, so then they're just on their own. Or the episode Angelica's birthday, and she thinks that's it. She's old now, all these responsibilities, not allowed to have any fun anymore for the rest of her life. And then so many great Chucky episodes, too. Like Chucky is Rich, or Chucky's Wonderful Life, when, obviously, It's a Wonderful Life. Chucky dreaming about what it would have been like if he hadn't been born. And then it turns out that Tommy is just this defenseless little baby because he didn't stand up to Angelica, because he didn't have Chucky there. Or now Phil and Lil just being these bad babies, and Angelica just being even more of a brat who gets everything she wants. But she does stick up for them, too. There's that episode, New Kid in Town, when they're tired of being bullied by Angelica, but then this kid Josh is even meaner to them. When he's saying, I know, we'll split them up. And she's like, who gets the heads? No, you take 2 babies, I'll take 2 babies. I love also the episode Kid TV, when the TV's broken. And then again, just using their imagination, and Chucky telling the news, how did it happen? Why did it happen? Nobody knows. Chucky just with his fears, his fear of the dark, fear of clowns, which is understandable. Fear of he's scared of the guy on the oatmeal box. Poor Chucky. Aw. But that's the thing, he always goes on the adventures, he always still faces his fears. That's important. And Chucky, too, he always was just prone to falling in love. In the episode Cradle Attraction, when he falls in love with that little girl Megan, and then when she's just poking him and fighting him, and it's like, 'cause I like you, okay? And he's like, I think I like her too. And they're like, don't understand the babies. And then she starts poking another kid and pushing him and pulling his hair. And then Chucky's like, Megan, how could you? Aw, and then Phil's like, oh wow, she could have at least been done bothering you before she went to bother some other kid. And Lil says, maybe that's just the way love is sometimes. I mean, that's deep. But then Chucky, he gets over his heartbreak because he's got his friends no matter what. And then the last episode of season 3, which it is a fitting finale. It could have been a fitting finale, which technically it was until the show was picked up again for more seasons. But when Angelica thinks she's moving away, and first they're all happy about that, but then Tommy says, no, this is a bad thing because Angelica's the reason we all became friends. And it was just Angelica with her lies saying, oh, this baby says you're a button eater, and just all these things to get them to fight with each other. And then she ends up with her head stuck in the fence because she wants cookies. And then Tommy says, so since we were fighting, we would have had our head stuck in the fence. So then they realize, oh, so she brought us together. And then when Angelica is crying and she says, I heard the whole thing. I remember when you saved me from that stupid dog. You were so brave. And she says, I'm going to miss you guys. And then they're all crying. And then when it turns out they're not moving, and then they're saying, oh, wow, Angelica, now things will be different. You like us. You really like us. Aw, stop hugging me. Stop it. Nothing's changed. But then the only episode to air in 95, so then that aired in 94 because production had stopped in 93. And then they held this episode until 95, the Passover episode. And for many of us, that was our introduction to learning about the Jewish faith and about Passover. And that's just Boris and Minka, Dee Dee's parents. And when he tells the babies about the story of Moses. And then the only episode in 96 was Hanukkah, but that was already in the 4th season then. And then I remember in 97 when new episodes started again for Rugrats, when they showed that episode, well, there were a few. There was also Mother's Day, which that episode is such a tearjerker when Chucky learns about his mom. That one's so touching. It's a beautiful episode. But side note with that, what was interesting was that they couldn't say that Chucky's mom had passed. And then there are a few times in season 1 when they mention Chucky's mom, but apparently it was just a joke. Because there's one part where he says, my mom says I came from the hospital. But then there's also the episode Vacation, which I had that one on VHS, so I'd watch that one a lot too. When Tommy wants to save the kitties, the tigers, and Angelica just wants to be up on stage singing, and then she's singing her version of Vacation. It's cute. And when they go to Las Vegas. But with that season, the episode Spike's Babies, I remember catching it on TV and be like, what's this episode? I never saw this one before with the little kitties. So cute. I was so excited. New Rugrats. But I have to say, those first 3 seasons, those episodes are superior to the later episodes. There are some great ones in these later seasons, but those are just, they hold up so well. The animation, the stories, it's fantastic. I got emotional watching a lot of them. Like happy emotional, just grinning and getting misty-eyed because the nostalgia, it's just feeling like you're a kid again, just that joyous feeling. So I loved it a lot. But Radio Days was a fun one. When I'm listening to the radio show and then the babies are pretending like they're in the story. There's that episode Clan of the Duck when Phil and Chucky try on dresses. I like the Thanksgiving episode too, the turkey who came to dinner. When they're trying to just save the turkey because they got the live turkey on accident. And Angelica just wants everyone to watch her parade. Other episodes I saw a lot were Hiccups and Autumn Leaves. That's from season 5. I had those 2 on VHS also. When Tommy has the hiccups and then when they're trying to scare him to get rid of the hiccups. And then he was actually scared when he thought Chucky was going to get hurt because nothing scares him since he's just a brave baby. I also love, oh my gosh, word of the day. What does Miss Carol think of her kids? She thinks we're all little. Oh gosh. With Angelica swearing. I like the episode where Chucky and Angelica switch personalities because trying on someone else's shoes, when the grown-ups say, oh, I wouldn't want to be in his shoes, and then Angelica says, well, when you try on someone's shoes, you become just like them. And then really it's Tommy's dream where Chucky puts on Angelica's shoes and then he's acting like a bully, and then Angelica puts on Chucky's shoes and she's acting all scared. Then there's the family tree, which is a great one too, where Chucky thinks that maybe they could be brothers, but then he's feeling left out because Chaz thinks Tommy misses his parents. And that's when we see Chaz's parents. And they're just on the cruise, and then they find out they're having another baby. And that leads to the Rugrats movie, which I discussed on a separate episode if you want to hear me recap the entire Rugrats movie. I loved that movie so much. I saw all 3 Rugrats films in theaters. Obviously, Rugrats Go Wild is the worst of the 3. It was a cool concept, but not a great execution, with a crossover with the Wild Thornberrys. And they call him Nigel Strawberry. And then there's Chucky and Donnie switching places, and Spike talking to Eliza, and it's like, nope, didn't want to hear Spike talk. Nope, no one asked for that. Oh gosh. And then Angelica bonding with Debbie. But nope. But the Rugrats movie is great. Released back in 98. Great songs, and introducing us to Dill, Tommy's brother. And it seems to be that people don't really care for Dill. I like Dill. I mean, I don't think he necessarily made the show better or worse in any way. It was just another character. And it suits Tommy to be an older brother. Just another baby for him to protect, and sets a good example for him. Because that's what he learns in the movie. Because first he has the sibling rivalry and he wants Dill to go back to the hopsicle. But then he realizes he needs to protect him, and he's sorry, and then they have their little bond. And Dill, voiced by Tara Strong, he's a few months old, and it's funny seeing a baby less advanced than them, that he barely talks. He talks, has his few words once in a while, just yucky, yucky, for Angelica. So I wonder at what point do the babies start to understand each other? I guess when they turn 1 or so. That's interesting. But the first episode with Dill in season 6, Chucky's duckling, when the little duckling following Chucky. And then A Dog's Life is cool too when it's from Spike's perspective and he goes to save Dill. And I always loved these 2 episodes, Chuckerfly and Angelica's twin. They're in the same half hour. Chuckerfly, it's when Angelica tells Chucky that the grown-ups don't care about him anymore because he's not cute anymore, and that they all pay attention to Dill. And then when they had seen earlier the kitty pillar going into the Cancun to become a butterfly. So then Chucky decides he's going to do that to become cute again. And then it works, and he just feels, I did it, I got cute. And then they're saying, oh, what a sweet little smile you have. It's just adorable. It's like, hey, little guy. It's like, oh, look, they're giving him attention. And Angelica decides to go into the cocoon to become cute again. And then Angelica's twin is when she pretends to have a twin, Paulina, and the babies just like her better because she's nicer to them. And at the end, when it's like, bye, Paulina. She's going back to Milwaukee. See you again in a bajillion years. And then when they're talking about her and saying, I may write to her, it's like, and someday when I get older, I may marry her. It's like, no, she's going to marry me because we're both pretty full. They all want to marry her. And it's cute. Also, the episode I Do when Angelica just has Chucky and Lil get married. It's like, oh, you both said I do. That means you got to get married. It's like, oh, here, now you're going on your money moon. And then they go into the little house. It's like, now you got a baby. It's like, oh, wow, we got a baby. I wish we talked about it first. I don't know if I'm ready. And then they decide to all get married so they can all be stuck together forever. So wholesome. So adorable. I loved also the Ghost Story episode with the crossover with Real Monsters. And Christine Cavanaugh, she also voiced Oblina in that show, too. I also love the episode Music, when they're teaching Dill about music and wondering if he can dream and make up pictures in his head about music, and they all sing their little songs. That's so cute. And I just remember commercials for these episodes. When they go to the Piggy Palace, I remember that, and just like them in the ball pit, and then they're just all excited and Chucky is covering his eyes. Or when Chucky says, I'm just not good at anything. I remember that. Oh my gosh, I'm just remembering all this stuff. Chucky's new shirt is funny when he is upset that his shirt is ruined, and then he's wearing the white shirt and he's saying, I think I'm like a Ralph. And then at the end, when Phil's getting upset and Lil says, what's wrong, Philip? I kind of liked that Ralph kid. I do like Phil and Lil, but I love Tommy, obviously, and then I love Chucky. I like Angelica, too, even though she is mean to the baby. She is very smart, though. That's the thing about Angelica. She knows how to get what she wants. She's really confident, and wants to be a star, and she's a princess. So there are qualities to admire about Angelica too. It's just she's the bully, but when she's nice and when she's helpful, it's great. Like when she helps out Susie, when she makes those, she has her little baking thing, and then they don't really like it, the babies, her Reptar cereal bars. And then when Angelica helps out Stu with keeping the door open, saying, well, Susie's a smart kid, like that's nice, and she gave her the credit. The Valentine one is cute, Be My Valentine, when they're both wanting to make a Valentine for Timmy McNulty. That kid with all the brothers when they do the Olympics, that one's cute too when they do the Olympics. And they're each paired up with the other baby, like Tommy with that other little baby and the other twins. And then Chucky says something about how, what happens to those days when we would just sit in the sandbox and have a good time and then the birds fly by, like those days are over now. They gotta do the Olympics. Like also Discover America, when they're just in the backyard and they gotta get a souvenir for Dill. That's cute. And then there's the special Acorn Nuts and Diaper Butts, which is when all the babies are experiencing all these new changes. Tommy's upset because Grandpa moves out and he thinks it's because he doesn't like Reptar. And Chucky's upset because his daddy starts going on all these dates, and Phil and Lil are upset because they have these new diapers that they don't like, that they can't move around in because they're really big and poofy. Then Tommy says how they have to focus on making things better now, not worrying about or reflecting on the good old days. They have to focus on what's good now. That's important too. And at the end they realize that the changes aren't so bad, and Tommy says, I think these are the good old days, talking to Dill. And this one's sweet because this one introduces us to Lulu, when Grandpa Lou gets married to Lulu, because Stu and Drew's mom, Trixie, we don't know much about their mom really, but that she passed away. But then Lulu, voiced by the late Debbie Reynolds, when they get married. So Lulu's an underrated character, and she's great. She's just so happy, and just their new grandma is just so sweet. It's nice that Grandpa found love again. Very cute. Lulu and Lou. And Drew and Stu just always bickering, even in that first episode when they're doing the puppet show and they're just arguing. It's like, why'd you break my favorite toy? I'm sorry, Stu. And there's that episode, Sour Pickles, when showing them when they're younger, and it's just Tommy and Chucky's voices, though, but it's Stu and Drew, with them always bickering. And yet, I mean, Stu is a great uncle, though, to Angelica. Stu and Dee Dee, they're great aunt and uncle. Oh gosh, I'm just thinking, and you'll never see your mom and your dad and your dumb old dog ever again. What's weird though, when I just watch all these episodes, it reminds me of other episodes, and I couldn't get to all of them, but I tried to watch as many of my favorites as I could. Another cute one is No Place Like Home, when Susie has her tonsils taken out, and then it's her dreaming like it's Wizard of Oz. That's cute. And then Acorn Nuts and Diaper Butts leads to Rugrats in Paris, which I'll have to talk about on a separate episode, but that's a great movie too. When Chucky just wants a mommy, he's got his little teddy bear, and it's so heartbreaking. Aw. And they go to Paris, and then Chucky's dad, he meets Kira, and Kira has her little daughter, Kimmy. So Kimmy's the new baby of the group, and she's just adventurous like Tommy. So that's cute too, how Chucky now as a big brother, and him wanting to protect Kimmy and help Kimmy, even though Kimmy is just more outgoing and adventurous than he is. He wants to be able to be a good older brother to her. And there's that really sweet moment in these later episodes of Rugrats. So this is when, with season 7, then they updated the theme song, where they added Susie, they added Kimmy, they added Dill, and instead of the one diaper, you see the 2 diapers now. And then in season 7, though, they had the 3 episode segments, which even when I was younger, I didn't care for. And they had gone back to the 2 segments. But in this season, they had 3. And there are a few. There's the episode Finstarella. I remember that one, which was right after Rugrats in Paris, with the evil stepsisters. Finestrella, little Kimmy. What's funny, too, with Kimmy is that she looks up to Angelica. She doesn't really see Angelica the way the other babies do. She sees her as someone she wants to be like. This bigger kid who isn't afraid of anything. And she has her little doll super thing. So Kimmy was a good addition, too. And a really sweet moment, though, is when Kira and Chaz are talking to Kimmy and Chucky and saying how they adopted them. That's really sweet. Just really heartwarming. And then in season 8, that's when Chucky got a new voice actress voiced by Nancy Cartwright. And I remember noticing it when I was younger, like being like, that doesn't sound like Chucky. The episode where he thinks he's allergic to Kimmy, where it was really a flower. By the way, I just want to mention Cynthia. Cynthia, she's a really cool dancer. Okay. I feel like I'm just throwing out references, but I can't help it. Just too many amazing moments. I just love this show so much. Also, I just randomly remembered the episode with Pirate Story, the pilot light, and when they're looking for their treasure. But anyway, so then, of course, there were 2 spin-offs with Rugrats. There was Rugrats Preschool Days, which I've never seen. I have no desire to see it because it's only a few episodes. Apparently really bad animation, just bad all around, so no thanks. But it was about Angelica and Susie. And then there was All Grown Up, which I remember watching it and even then being like, this is not that good. Just not crazy about it. There were okay stuff here and there. There was more with the Java Lava, which was Chaz's new coffee place, which was introduced in Rugrats. And also there was Taffy in those later seasons, voiced by Amanda Bynes. But, so with All Grown Up, there were some okay things here and there. There was that episode when they're reminiscing about Reptar. That was cute. And there was an episode with Angelica reminiscing about Cynthia, and then how she doesn't want to let go of Cynthia. And then there's something with her saying, like, oh, I guess she realizes that if you have something in the past, then you can't look to the future, just holding on too much to the past, even though she loves her Cynthia doll, but then saying, well, something to look forward to, or something like that. It was with her friendship with Susie, basically realizing that that's the new thing for her. So they do come to have a good friendship. And then I remember too, because so after season 1, that's when Klasky Csupó Studios, all those productions ended in 2004. Sadly. So then it went to a new studio since this show ran from 2003 to 2008. And then I remember the art style was so different. Even back then I was like, oh my gosh, what happened to All Grown Up? But that first season, it was okay. I remember also there was an episode where there were initials T, P, and KF. And then Chucky thinks that Tommy has a crush on Kimmy, but then it turns out Kimmy's the one who wrote those initials. And then Tommy's like, oh, you had a crush on me? And then Kimmy says, only for like half a second a year ago. Get over yourself. Just totally denying that, which, you know what that means. But, and there was more like Lil wanting her own identity, wanting her own room. That was the first episode of the series, I remember. I did like the All Grown Up theme song, though, sung by Cree Summer. Every birthday, my mom and dad would say, you're another year older, another year wiser, but I still go to school to get an education. I treat each and every day like a mini vacation. All grown up, I really want to shout it out. All grown up, I want the world to know. Oh my gosh. Anyway. But the whole thing with this show was that it was geared towards tweens and young teens, since that's how old the characters are in this series. But it just pales in comparison to Rugrats, because the characters kind of lose what we love about them as babies, and now they're just kind of regular teens going through the tribulations of adolescence, which is relatable. It's just not as fun to watch in this sense with these characters that we have known them all these years as babies. All that being said, the special, All Growed Up, which aired in 2001, 10 years after the series first started, that was great. But then, of course, they wanted more Nickelodeon. But if only that could have just been its only thing, just left it alone. But it was fun to see the babies aged up and to see Tommy with hair. And apparently they went back and forth about whether or not they should give him hair. I remember it was just so exciting watching it, just them 10 years older. And just hearing their voices older for the first time. Just them aged up. First Angelica, when she's saying, I can't believe you and your mutant friends are still playing in a closet. You are such preteens. That Emika CD is brand new. Hand it over. But you said we could borrow it, Angelica. Just Tommy with his deeper voice. It was funny, and it was cool seeing that. I remember even at the time thinking that it's weird seeing them, like seeing Tommy with hair and Dill with hair, Dill with the red hair like Dee Dee, and Tommy with the purple spiky hair like Stu. It's weird hearing them talk clearly, not messing up their words with little mispronunciations as babies. And it was weird with them talking to the parents, like when they're talking about them doing that disco contest, and then Tom's like, you guys will definitely win, giving them a thumbs up. That was so bizarre. I remember thinking that. And then at the end when Angelica gives her ticket away to Susie, and then Dill's like, oh, too bad you had to miss the concert. And Angelica says, yeah, that's the price of being nice. And then Tommy says, Angelica, what you did, well, thanks. And Angelica says, oh, forget about it. We're cousins, stuck together for all eternity. That was a really sweet moment. And then Grandpa shows up, and then he's got an extra ticket. It's just so cute. Oh my gosh. And then when they sing on stage with Emika, and that song is just really cute and sweet. You're a friend to me, I'm a friend to you. It's so cute. I'm like smiling so much right now. And then when it just shows clips of all old Rugrats episodes, it makes me emotional. It's just all the nostalgia. What can I say? And just all the babies on their adventures. Little babies going on these big adventures. So with this show coming back, at this moment in time, I will say I'm excited. I'm curious to see what they're going to be doing, because just all this new technology, distracted parents, that's more prominent than ever. It seems like, though, they may just have the original babies, no Dill, no Kimmy, possibly. No Lulu, which that'd be sad, no Kira. I'm not sure what to expect. I mean, obviously, nothing will compare to the original with any remake in general, but it'll just be cool to see new stories with these babies, just see what they come up with now. But overall, just watching Rugrats, to me, it's just equivalent to snuggling up with a cozy blankie. It's just pure joy, just that feeling of being a little kid yourself again, and childhood wonder. So this show is just forever close to my heart. I love it so, so much. And a baby's gotta do what a baby's gotta do. And with that, that is going to conclude this week's episode of Storytelling Saga. You can follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at Storytelling Saga, as well as on Twitter at Storytell Saga. You can also send me any questions, comments, or writing prompts by leaving me a message in the contact section of storytellingsaga.com, or by sending me an email at storytellingsaga@gmail.com. Next week, at night, I would lie in bed and watch the show, how bees squeezed through the cracks of my bedroom wall and flew circles around the room, making the propeller sound, a high-pitched zzz that hummed along my skin. I'll be discussing the secret life of bees. Until then, thank you for listening, and remember, write what you love.